Peace and prosperity, everyone. My name is Traverro Harden. Most people who know me know that I have 5 wonderful children, and that the most important role to me in my life is as a mother. The most important role to me. Most people know how involved I am with my kids, how we set goals. You always see us together. You see us together as a family. I have homeschooled them for years because I want them to have the best education. And I realize as a parent that it is my responsibility to make sure that they are knowledgeable, and that they are protected, and that they are safe, right? So I want to come to you today to let everyone know that 9 years ago, this could be very different if I did not have Attorney Brenee Orozco on my team, in my corner. 9 years ago, I had just had my son, Pahiru. He was born 2 months early. Jamal and I were doting parents. We were so proud. We did everything together, so much so that after I had Pahiru, I was still working, and there would be times where I needed to get rest, and Jamal would come over some days and stay up with the baby so that I could get more sleep. Well, things will happen. I lived in an apartment at that time that had like a lot of stairs. And so the baby woke up at night. He was crying. Jamal was carrying the baby downstairs to go and prepare a bottle in the kitchen. And as things will sometimes happen, he fell. And so as not to drop the baby, to protect the baby, he held him really, really tight. We didn't know at that time that he grabbed the baby's leg so tight that it broke his leg. Okay. After the accident, the baby cried and cried. So we took the baby to the pediatrician. The pediatrician said, "Oh, he's fine." And we was like, "Well, he's crying out and he cried for so long." He said, "Well, give him a little bit of infant Tylenol. He should be fine." Okay. A week later, I noticed that my baby's ankle is swollen. Now he's no longer crying in pain, but I'm like, this isn't supposed to happen. So I take him to the same pediatrician, who says, "Oh, he's fine. It probably was a bad sprain. I'm touching it right now. He's not crying out in pain. He should be okay." And about a week later, the swelling goes down. So this is about 2.5 weeks apart. But he won't put the leg down. And I said, no. So, me being the parent that just has to figure this out, I want my child to be safe. We take him to UNC Chapel Hill, to one of my daughters, a specialty doctors. And they say, "Oh, he's fine. Mom, you can just take him back home." I said, "Well, you know what? Just for my peace of mind, can you do an x-ray? Because I just feel like he is favoring this leg, and that's just not normal for me." So they did the x-ray to, calm my anxieties and worry. We left, and about halfway home back to Fayetteville, they say, "Well, can you bring the baby back? Because his leg is indeed broken, so you did have reason for concern. Can you bring him back so that the doctor can cast his leg?" So that was what we did. And we're there, and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for them to cast the baby's leg. No one ever comes in. They bring in an eye doctor, all these doctors that don't seem to have anything to do with broken bones. It was later told to me about a couple of hours later, by the head of, child endangerment at UNC, that I was, expected of having intentionally broke his leg. And I said, "Well, no." And I told the story of, this is the third doctor that he's seen in 2 weeks. I'm trying to make sure everything's okay. I asked for the x-ray, and the lady looked me square in my eye and said, "Well, that's what happens sometimes when parents feel guilty about abuse. They will actually seek medical care for the child." And I said, "Okay, well, that's not the case here." And every doctor told me, "Don't worry about it. and I wanted to ensure that my child was safe. Then she goes through, you know, have I went to school? And I said I was in school at the time. I was in graduate school. And she says, well, you know, sometimes I get mothers like you who are very, you know, driven, and then you take your anger and anxiety out on your child. And I believe that you broke this child's leg because, you know, you are working so hard and you taking on so much as a single mother that you did this. And of course, by that point, I've been in here talking with this lady about 45 minutes. I'm like, you know what? I think you're crazy. And, you know, it just went all downhill from there. It got back to Cumberland County. They took not just my son out the house, but they took my daughter. And then her father got involved. It was a mess. I was basically being put on trial by Cumberland County Department of Social Services for child endangerment, abuse, and neglect. If it surprised you, imagine what my life was like 9 years ago. You know, it was. But I was given a public defender by the name of Brenee Orozco. And at that time, I just did not believe that a public defender would fight for you and would really do as great of a job as a paid lawyer. So I went out and I was about to hire a lawyer for retainer. And that was an elder who called me from Washington, D.C. She had been a public defender for 8 years. And she said, listen to me. There are public defenders that will go harder for you than a paid lawyer. She says, give this public defender a chance to do her job. If you have any questions about how she's performing, call me. I met with Ms. Orozco. We went through everything. When I tell you that I have never worked with someone who was so professional, and she believed me, and she heard me out, and she talked to my parents at the time, like she talked to people who knew me, because I felt like she needed to know that I was telling her the truth, that I did not harm my son. And we would order like all of these boxes of medical records from UNC because I had been taking my daughter there for years. And she helped me sift through. And when I say boxes, we would stay up for hours. She would call me every day. I mean, we were working, we were in court. It seemed like every week, if not every 2 weeks. And this woman fought for me. I saw her in the courtroom, her knowledge, just her keeping me abreast of my case, even when she had other cases. And I remember, me saying to her, I just feel like this is so overwhelming. She said, well, you know what? You are not alone in this. I am here for you. She would be in the court and she would be representing me and she would be speaking to the judges. And I mean, just her knowledge of the law and the way that she went to bat for me. And she called me one day and she continued to stay in touch between me and the doctors at UNC and finding out like what went wrong. And we finally took my son to a last doctor's appointment where the head of bones at UNC said this child never had 2 broken legs, because that was what DSS's lawyer was claiming, that that my son had 2 broken legs. And the head of bones there said this is an inaccurate x-ray read, and the head of x-ray technology had to be brought in, and she said it was indeed a wrong read and that it just never happened. And the doctor wrote everything out because he had been knowing me for years. He said, I just know this mother personally, but I can tell you from a medical perspective, there isn't anything wrong here. That was a wrong read. And what eventually happened was my lawyer got this information. She contacted DSS's lawyer, made sure that they got everything in a timely manner, because they were still trying to then drag their feet and say that even if my son didn't have a broken leg, they still suspected abuse and neglect. And you know, DSS tried to hold on to that. And Brenee Orozco, honey, she went all the way in and she filed a motion. She said no. Now they are keeping this women's children away from her because they don't want to admit to being wrong. And when I tell you that she went to bat for me, and I was looking at not ever getting my kids back. I mean, they were trying to put my children up with a foster family. And it just so happened that I had a friend, a person who used to be the nanny to my son, who took in both my kids. And my other daughter went to Georgia with her father. And Brenee Orozco filed a motion to get my daughter back from Georgia because her dad did not want to bring her back. And he said that he wasn't bringing her back to North Carolina. Brenee, that same day, called me and said, go get your son. I'm filing a motion because dad does not want to bring your daughter back from Georgia, but we're going to get your babies. Within 2 weeks, I had both my children back in my home. I say that to say, she was a public defender doing this. We need people like her on the bench who can look at the law, look at the precedents that's been set, that can be entirely fair, and that has been fighting for families, that knows families. Because I'm going to tell you, everybody is not created equally. We need people that are for this community here in Cumberland County. She's going to get my vote. She's already gotten my vote. And I was waiting for her to run for judge because we need people like her. So I encourage you to listen to what I've said. And if it moves you at all, this is a personal account for how this candidate running has changed a family's life in Cumberland County. I'm a mother before I'm anything else. And the most important things to me are my children. There is nothing more important than that to me. I urge you, I encourage you. We need her on the bench. Vote Attorney Brenee Orozco for Cumberland County District Court Judge. Peace and prosperity.